And welcome to the program. Tonight's episode is about big tech and the media crushing anyone's voice that happens to disagree. It is so appropriate that today, before this broadcast, YouTube announced this. Yesterday was the safe harbor deadline for the U.S. presidential election, and enough states have certified their election results to determine president-elect. Given that, we will start removing any piece of content uploaded today or any time after that misleads people by alleging that widespread fraud or errors changed the outcome of the 2020 U.S. presidential election in line with our approach towards historic U.S. presidential elections. We will remove videos claiming a presidential candidate won the election due to widespread software glitches or counting errors. We will begin enforcing this policy today, and we will ramp it up in the weeks to come. As always, news coverage and commentary on these issues really can remain on our site if there's sufficient education, documentary, scientific, or artistic content. I'm about to bring out frickin' ballet dancers while I finish this monologue, if that would keep me on, but I guarantee you there's nothing artistic or scientific about any of their policies or what they will now allow you to hear. I looked up, right before I came on the air, the scientific method. Just for Twitter and YouTube and everybody else that seems to forget what freedom is all about. The scientific method involves careful observation, applying rigorous skepticism about what is observed. I can't be a skeptic now? I can't look at this? Let me ask you this. Do you think YouTube and the others would be saying the same thing if it was reversed? If Joe Biden had lost and we were having him go through court cases, they said they would never give up. Never give up. Now they're erasing history. Now they are deciding what you and I can talk about. Gang, we might as well hide in the basement. You are the revolutionary. You are the outsider now. They have control. How are you going to meet? How are we going to protest? You can, if you want to protest and burn cities down, you can tweet about it and everything. Let everybody know about it. But if it's not on YouTube, if it's not on Google, if it's not on Facebook, it ain't happening. Something has to change. Let me ask you this, YouTube. Let's say, I don't know, a former MI6 spy who the FBI had discredited, presented to me a file and said, look, I've got this on good authority. This good authority, right here, it shows that China was working with Joe Biden to make sure that Donald Trump didn't win. And also there's some pretty solid evidence that he was peeing on hookers in Beijing. Would you allow that to be covered? Because you didn't seem to have a problem with that when the shoe was on another foot. We make no progress as human beings if we can't debate, if we can't talk, if we don't have different opinions. This is a disturbing wake-up call. I'm telling you, this is last call at the bar. We have major, major problems. May I just remind that Tesla, he went up against the machine, against Edison Electric. Do you know what Edison Electric is now called? General Electric, GE. He went up against all of the power players. They smeared him. They called him crazy. Who's crazy now? Who's crazy now? How about Bonhoeffer? He was speaking out. They called him crazy. They eventually killed him. Who was right with Dietrich Bonhoeffer? How about Galileo? Galileo. He had to go in front of a tribunal. They listened to his nonsense. He says, We're not the center of the universe, okay? Earth ain't the center of the universe. How dare you? So what did they do? Well, they confined him to quarters. Yeah. Might have been a COVID thing. I don't know. Dare I say that? Under house arrest, Galileo, he turns out to be the father of the scientific method. And let me just give you one more. My hero in American history is George Washington. You know how he died? They bled him to death. There was one guy, a younger doctor, who said he can't breathe. What we should do is we should take something and let me cut a little hole right here. And I can open up his airway and he'll be able to breathe. The other doctor said, that's madness. What kind of monster are you? I am not cutting the throat of the first president of the United States. Give me some more leeches. They bled him to death. Well, that was crazy when William Harvey said we shouldn't bleed people to death. He fought, and eventually he won. You don't stifle any ideas. I was just going to say, are we Nazi Germany? I've read enough about it. We're on the way. This is how much the Nazis believed in you. This is a radio, and you can see, if you could get a close-up here, on each side, you see the Nazi symbol and the eagle. This was the radio that was for sale. Everybody could buy one. In fact, it's pretty much all you could buy. The special thing about this radio was it only picked up German stations that were approved. You couldn't have anybody with differing opinions. Having the German people listen to that? No. They knew what was right, so they put together a magic radio box that would only pick up the approved messages. Wow, that sounds like Google and YouTube and Twitter, doesn't it? These are the most powerful companies in human history, and they are using this unprecedented power to suppress and censor speech and viewpoints they don't agree with. Even though their wealth is largely built on the dissemination of ideas and lets all of us gather together in the square and talk. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I don't agree with. I don't ever want it censored. I have never called for the firing of anyone with a differing opinion. I respect them. I listen to them if they're honest. But I still, if they're completely dishonest, which is only about, 100% of the media, I still don't want them fired. Because I do believe that truth and logic and common sense, and I do believe in the American people to use those things to come up with the right decision. But big tech doesn't. Now, I want you to know that's usually Facebook, Google, Apple, Amazon, Twitter. But tonight, I'm just going to focus on big tech's role as the new arbiters of truth, because they know we're dummies. Oh, build back better. Me read good. I'm mainly focusing on Facebook and Instagram, which Facebook owns, Google and YouTube, which Google owns, and Twitter. Not to let Amazon and Apple off the hook, they're just not quite as knee-deep in the blood of freedom of speech to be talked about quite yet. Big tech controls the new digital public square. It is part of our everyday communication. It is, especially now with COVID, it's how we talk to each other. But see, they don't have to abide by the First Amendment. First Amendment, that applies to the government. Well, they're not the government. Big tech's framework, when it comes to free speech, is a lot closer to the European Union law, which means the rules are highly subjective and enforced based on the left-wing dogma of the rule makers. That way, Facebook, Google, and Twitter apply their standards, and it can continue to be biased against whomever. Conservatives, outlets like The Blaze. I mean, if anyone challenges left-wing dogma, you're out. Even back before 2016, the election, former employees at Facebook admitted that, quote, they routinely suppressed conservative news, end quote. One worker said they kept conservative topics out of the trending news feature, even when those topics were organically trending among Facebook users. Often, if a story was trending enough to be recognized by Facebook's algorithm, the news curators would not put it in the trending news section unless a more mainstream outlet like the New York Times or CNN were covering the same story. Besides keeping conservative topics out, they would also insert topics that they wanted to trend. For example, one former Facebook news curator said Black Lives Matter. That topic was artificially injected into the trending news feature. Quote, Facebook got a lot of pressure about not having a trending topic for Black Lives Matter. They realized it was a problem and they boosted it in the ordering. They gave it preference over other topics. So it was manufactured. Nothing is real anymore, and that's why our kids are killing themselves. Everything is meaningless, nothing is real. Everything that they're telling you, is it real? What's the truth? I don't know. And the more you suppress, the more I question, because that's what humans do. Eventually, Facebook got rid of its trending news feature and focused more on the aspiring role as God of all truth. I'll have more on them in a minute. 2 weeks ago, YouTube demonetized and suspended One American News Network from posting new videos for a week. Bad OAN. YouTube alleges that OANN posted a video promoting a phony cure for COVID-19. Well, one of our producers reached out to OAN's host, who said the video in question was, quote, an old unlisted video, meaning not public. One of their former White House reporters detailing an event where the president discussed hydroxychloroquine. The OAN host said it wasn't even our reporter who made the claim in dispute. And by the way, I've taken hydroxychloroquine. My whole family had COVID. I didn't. And I'm not the picture of health. Gee, I wonder what it was. The big tech censors love to say context matters, except when they decide it doesn't. If it's about me or Donald Trump or anybody else, context doesn't matter at all. The same week that YouTube shut down OAN, 4 Democratic senators sent a letter. YouTube, hey, we got to talk to you about something. Their deep concern about misinformation on YouTube in light of the upcoming Georgia runoff elections. Apparently, these senators are not satisfied with the current level of censorship at YouTube. We demand more, especially if it helps the Democrats in the fight for Senate control. You'll also know this is a constant trend with big tech and the Democrats. They shut down certain viewpoints and block certain stories, because they don't trust you to figure out anything on your own. But it's usually a mistake. It was a glitch. Oh, we can't talk about glitches, can we? You can't be allowed to hear different perspectives on something like hydroxychloroquine because the state has already decided for you, and they know what's best. Big tech knows what's best. They've built this little machine for you, and you'll get all the voices you need, and none of those voices that should be concerning to you. In July, Google's search results omitted a number of conservative websites and blogs, including Breitbart, the Daily Caller, Red State, the American Conservative, the Bongino Report. And if you search for one of those sites, you'd get links to Wikipedia articles or maybe a Twitter feed, but not the actual website. However, searches at the same time for sites like the New York Times, Washington Post, they weren't affected by this glitch that Google eventually fixed. They blamed it on a technical issue. It's a convenient excuse that is used over and over and over again. But you notice it never seems to hurt the other side. It's like all of those votes that were found, all of them went to Biden. Isn't that weird? A former Google engineer told Mediaite that the incident was probably not a mistake. No. He said it appears to have been revealed the existence of a blacklist that disproportionately targets conservatives. The glitch is that sites on this blacklist, yeah, they disappear. You can't pick them up anymore. Not in Google searches, nothing. But the existence of the list is very much by design. And that raises a major question here. Why was a blacklist created in the first place? What else is it used for? Does anybody think blacklisting is a bad idea? Again, that's a former Google engineer theorizing about what he thinks might be going on in Google. Gosh, I hope they don't take this off of YouTube because of that. But it aligns with the pattern we've seen over the past few years with YouTube at various points shutting down and demonetizing Jordan Peterson, Dave Rubin, Stephen Crowder, PragerU, Blaze TV, among many others. And then there's Twitter, whose censorship and hypocrisy is so plentiful that it's hard to keep up. The worst recent example is their locking the New York Post account to suppress the Post's reporting in October, which studies now show would have turned the election entirely. People who voted for Joe Biden, had they known that story, they wouldn't have voted for him. If it had been the Washington Post reporting on an Eric Trump laptop, Twitter would have, oh my gosh, they would have surrendered the entire platform to help spread the word. Or how about the time earlier in the year when Twitter really let their true colors fly by flagging a tweet from President Trump condemning the riots in Minneapolis? Twitter said the tweet got a warning label for glorifying violence. Well, let me give you a couple. These tweets from Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei literally glorify violence, call for genocide against Israel, but there are no warning labels there. Yeah, I mean, why would you have a warning label there? Oh, by the way, still on Twitter today is this from a Michigan representative. Watch.
So this is just a warning to you Trumpers. Be careful.
Oh.
Walk lightly.
Ooh.
We ain't playing with you.
Oh, boy.
Enough of the shenanigans.
Okay, shenanigans.
Enough.
Enough.
It's enough.
Enough.
And for those of you who are soldiers,
You
know how to do it.
Do what?
Do it right.
Do what right?
Be in order.
Be in order.
Make them pay.
Make them pay. That is still on Facebook as I speak. Not a problem. What the hell is that? Besides a government official seemingly calling for violence on a third of the population. Later, at an Israeli government hearing on anti-Semitism, a Twitter representative was asked about this kind of inconsistency here. See if you can understand Twitter's reasoning. Here it is.
Calling for genocide on Twitter is okay, but commenting on political situations in certain countries is not okay?
So if a word leader violates our rules, it is a clear interest in keeping that up on the service, we may place it behind a notice that provides some more context about the violation and allows people to click through if they wish to see that type of content. And that is what happened for the Trump tweet. That tweet was violating our policies regarding the glorification of violence based on the historical context of the last line of that tweet and the risk that it could possibly inspire harm and similar actions.
But a Democrat saying, get them, that's fine. There's no meter for that. The Ayatollah's tweet? Oh, sure, it's not going to inspire harm. Who listens to him? Am I right? But Trump's tweet condemning the Minneapolis rioting, oh, that needs more context than I could even begin to imagine. Makes total sense, right? The message from big tech is clear. If you mess with us, if you mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns. In the digital public square, it is dangerous to challenge the elite progressive dogma, but I will do it till my final breath. You take everything away from me, I'll still do it. Put me in a park with Ricky Gervais. I'll be there too. Never, never will a good portion of Americans remain silent. It's un-American. It goes against human nature. It goes against all rights of man. But warning, you're going to be a target because of the mountains of private data these big tech companies have access to, and you do not. Should they decide to expand their silencing operations against Americans who refuse to bow down to the progressive golden calf, it will be easy for them to identify all of the heretics. Burn the witch. Big tech totalitarianism is a fast-growing threat, and we conservative heretics need to prepare ourselves for a new reality of life as the dissidents under the regime. Part of this new reality is finding people that will stand and linking with them. I will stand, you know what, I propose to the Daily Caller, to Ben Shapiro, to all of them. A NATO alliance. An attack on one is an attack on all. You need to support these independent voices. If it's not Blaze TV, find somebody that you think is really standing up for the truth, that won't ever sell out. I hope that we will be considered at the Blaze TV. We have big tech breathing down our throat almost at a daily basis, and this message from them today, it's over. It's only a matter of time, unless we fight. Join us at blazetv.com. Make sure you have access to all of our content. Make sure you know who your friends are and spread the word. Next, I'm going to tell you about the group pushing for a new digital New Deal. Ooh, as well as the new board that is making